And we are live. Hello, hello, hello. Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Hey, What's New with D&D. I'm Donny, AWS Developer Advocate covering Southeast Asia, and Derek, you're on mute. Let's repeat that again.
I, you go first. Go.
Okay. I'm Donny, Developer Advocate from ASEAN, from AWS, and
I am Derek Bingham, a developer advocate looking after Australia and New Zealand. Did it work this time, Tony? Did you hear
yes,
me? Yeah.
yes, I hear you well. Thank you, Derek. Okay, so together, Derek and I, we are bringing you practical information with demos on how you can implement the most recent announcements that we have curated for you. All right, just a quick intro. For those who are new to this series, Hey, What's New is a bi-weekly show where Derek and I, we bring you our picks from the AWS What's New blog and show you how to blitz something from what AWS has just released with demos. So if you have any questions about these new announcements, ask away in the comment box. Share your feedback or even request features. And we've been running for a couple of episodes now. And if you want to watch our previous episodes, you can go to this link. Um, I think I've already saved the link, and
It's there. It's there somewhere. It's there.
it's
It's
there
definitely there.
somewhere. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, I
past
have it.
episodes here. I
Okay.
yeah. There we go.
Yeah. So, so with this on this link, that Derek already diligently edited and uploaded the videos one by one. Thank you, Derek, for that. And within
No
that
problem.
playlist, you can catch up with cool demos that Derek and I have worked on and presented in this program. Okay, so let's talk about today.
Oh,
Now, Derek, what do you have for us today?
yes, Donny. Thanks. So today we're going to be talking about CDK pipelines. And for those of you who have seen the show before, you'll see that the last demo I gave, um, we had a few hiccups and issues. So today, to try and negate that, I'm wearing my lucky demo shirt, with including dabbing unicorns. If you can see it, it's a dabbing unicorn. Oh, you can't see it. There you go. So hopefully the demo goes well today, but we'll be talking about Johnny CDK pipelines,
Mm.
and we'll go through building out a CDK pipeline, what it all is all about, and take everybody through it for a working demo, using a working demo, hopefully.
Okay. Glad to hear that you're wearing your lucky charm for today's sessions, Derek. And before you take this away, just a gentle reminder to everyone that if you have any questions, just let us know in the comment box. Okay? And over to you, Derek.
Okay, well, let's share my screen here, Donny. We'll get into it and jump right in. So here is, as we start every episode, is the What's New post that we're going to start about today. So this one, July 20th, 2021. So about 4 weeks ago, we announced the release or the GA release of CDK pipelines. So if you haven't come across CDK pipelines before, they have been in developer preview for about a year, and they're a construct library that's part of the AWS CDK, so the Cloud Development Kit. And what the Cloud Development Kit allows developers to do is define the infrastructure as code, but not in the usual JSON or YAML format. No, you can choose the language of choice to build out your infrastructure as code. So today I'll be using TypeScript, but
Mm.
you can use C Sharp, you can use Java, and other languages to build out your infrastructure as code using the CDK. So this is the release. This is what we'll be talking about. Um, Now, when you talk about CDK pipelines, there's also a blog as well that goes through how to create your first one. So we'll be sharing links to this blog as well. Um, but as well as knowledge, there's a few, as well as knowledge of the CDK, the other prerequisite that you really need to understand this topic fully is the knowledge of what makes a good continuous integration, continuous delivery pipeline. And there to do that, there's a great article in the AWS builder's library called Automating Safe Hands-Off Deployments by Claire, and it goes through all the things that we do in Amazon to build out a pipeline and goes through the steps and stages. So a typical pipeline would be a source stage where you check out source from your favorite code repository, whether it be a Git code repository, somewhere else. Then you build that code, and then you test that code, and then you deploy that code either to a test environment or to production. So the CDK pipeline is a way of orchestrating that for CDK applications. So let's start by jumping into my favorite editor and take you through how to bootstrap your AWS account to use the CDK. Now, bootstrapping is what you need to do is prepare your account so it can run a CDK pipeline. So when we talk about pipelines, we recommend that a pipeline, a deployment pipeline, exists in an account, a single account, and then it has the ability to deploy applications into other accounts. So you always talk about at least one account, and preferably two. One to hold your AWS pipe, so your CDK pipeline, and the other one to hold the application. So you may have an account that has your test application. You may have an account that has the production application. So to bootstrap the CDK, there is a command, and I'm going to show you what that command is because it's straight from the blog. Sorry. So the blog I showed you earlier shows you how to bootstrap. So if you go scroll down halfway, it'll show you how to bootstrap. Well, I thought it did. Maybe it doesn't. So that's okay because there is a fantastic CDK documentation. So if you go to the slide AWS CDK docs, there is the reference documentation, and I'll just make that a bit bigger. So you choose your language of choice, which is TypeScript. And from here, you can search pipelines. And from here, you can, I think it's all the modules at the bottom. Yeah. Pipelines. And this will give you all the tasks you can watch, but there's also where is the documentation? This is the reference. I don't need the reference. Okay, we're going to do this real because CK pipelines. This one. So this is what I was looking for. See, it's that easy. Google developing is the thing. So this will take you through how to set up your first pipeline if you don't know. And the first thing you need to do is provision. So so the bootstrap, the CDK CLI for bootstrapping. Oh my goodness, this is so CDK bootstrap. Go to brings you up to this workshop. So the CDK workshop is a great little account that you can build out your pipeline. It will show you how to bootstrap. So the bootstrap command is a CDK command. So the CDK is a CLI. You then pass in bootstrap, and then you bootstrap one or many accounts. So we recommend that you bootstrap a single account, and then as the account to run pipeline, and then any other accounts you set up as a trust to that single account to decrease your threat uh, impact. And so that's the recommendation. And once you've bootstrapped it using the CLI, you'll know because you will have a an S3 bucket. So this is the account that I bootstrap. If you go to S3 in that account, you will have a bucket that will store all of your assets that you use to provision the CDK. So if I go down here, then you'll see that my pipeline stack is the stack that was created by the CDK to provision the resources in this account. And if you go to information, which, as you know, everything is provisioned in, you will also see a tool, CDK tools stack. And there's CDK toolkit. So that's a good way of checking to see that the account has been bootstrapped. So now that you've bootstrapped the account, the next stage is to actually start building out that CDK pipeline. So back into the code itself. So
Derek.
if you build this, yep, yes,
Yeah,
Johnny,
sorry,
sorry.
I have one question. I'm
Mhm.
really curious about this. Okay, so you've mentioned a couple of times about bootstrapping the environment, and apart from CDK pipelines, we know that first thing that we need to do to get started with CDK is to bootstrapping. Is it something different with the initial bootstrapping when we started to use CDK and CDK pipelines? Is it something that we need to redo it again?
So there's you always need to bootstrap an account to use the use CDK itself.
Mm.
For pipelines, we need to think about how many other accounts we're going to deploy in.
I see.
So what you need to do is set up that trust relationship, because what you need to do, you can deploy from an account with the CDK, but you can also deploy across regions.
Mm.
So you have to set up those trust relationships for where you're going to deploy from and to. So that's an important thing to bear in mind when you're bootstrapping a CDK pipeline.
Understood. Okay, that's crystal clear. Thank you, Derek.
Cool. Great question, Donny, as ever. So this is the code to define the pipeline. So like any CDK code, we define, first of all, we define the stack as a way of uh, encapsulating the resources that we want to provision. In this case, it's a code pipeline. So code pipeline is our service to orchestrate, build, and deployment tasks inside the pipeline. And the pipeline that we're going to do here is called HWN pipeline. And the steps is just going to do a CDK synth. And it's going to pull the code for this from my GitHub repo. So to get access to my GitHub repo, I've previously set up a secrets manager secret that will give with a key into my GitHub repo. And then it will run the following commands: npm ci, npm run build, npm CDK synth. So what that does when I do a CDK push, CDK deploy, sorry, push is for Git, CDK deploy, that will then provision my initial pipeline. And it'll look something like this. So it will look like this. If I go into commands, into code pipelines, you will see the pipeline will look like this. So it will have the source action that we talked about earlier. It will have the build action, which at the minute is doing a few npm commands. And then it will have this app update pipeline. And this is what we're going to talk about next, and how a pipeline itself updates itself, which is a very, very cool aspect of the CDK pipeline. So this is your initial CDK pipeline that you provision to get started. And then you start building out your applications on top of that. So that's that. And here is what that will look like. So far we've built our source, we have our build, we have our update pipeline, but we haven't built anything. It doesn't actually do anything at the minute. All it does, it says it's ready to publish some assets and deploy those to different stages, wherever that may be. So making sense, Tony? Is it
Yes, that
coming
makes
through?
sense. So
Excellent.
let me share with you my understanding so far. So at this stage, what you've shown to us that we have defined the applications and also the pipeline. But what I know is that this pipeline, it doesn't do anything yet.
Yep.
So
Yep.
my next question is that how can I start deploying my apps into the pipeline that I have configured into the CDK pipelines?
Excellent. Yep. So that's the next stage of building out your pipeline. So
Mm,
um, if you've built the CDK before, you'll be familiar with a stack. So here we have my pipeline that I've defined before, so exactly the same code. But what I'm going to add into this is this line. So it's a pipeline, add stage, pipeline REST API stage. So, and I'm going to call this stage test. So what is the pipeline REST API stage? So I can go to that. And this stage is how we wrap our stacks. So I mentioned earlier that CDK, everything is defined inside a stack. Now, a
mm,
CDK application is a stack. So I have defined a code pipeline demo stack, and I'm wrapping that in a stage, right? And I'm calling this stack web service. So again, if I jump into this stack, you will see what this actual application is. So it has a Lambda, which I'm defining as a hello Lambda. It has some code inside a hello handler. It has a REST API, and that REST API has a route of hello, and then the CFN output. So piece is that saying once it's provisioned, return the URL as an output, so I know where this is being deployed to. So um, by calling my stage, let's go. Let's show the code. So by calling my add stage, pipeline REST API stage, what I'm doing is I'm adding that first stage to my pipeline, and it will deploy my application.
mm.
So what that looks like is this, where I have deployed it here. So this is my code pipeline with stage. It has a source stage, it has a build stage, it has an update pipeline stage, assets, and test stage. And so if I go into the actual deploy cloud formation, like so, go in here, go to the outputs, I can see the endpoint of my API, so that URL property that I defined. Now if I click on that and go hello, I can spell hello, my route, and this is my application. So it's deployed that application there for me. Now that's great. But what we need to think about is this is just deploying it to UAT. So how would we, typically deploy it across accounts, across regions, because we need to separate our concerns. Because the best AWS, the best practices, as you know, Donny, is using different accounts for different deployment targets, so prod, test, etc. So we can do that within inside the CDK. So what we do is, so we've got our initial stage. we can define as many stages as we want. So we can we'll call this one prod. And for this one, again, we'll reference the pipeline and we will add another stage. And again, well, what are we deploying? So we are deploying the new, a new pipeline REST API stage, which is my application. This is always passed around because it is the scope of the construct. And then after this, we want to give it a name. So this is my production. Oh, yes, production, thank you. And now we can start defining properties. So in here, we can define the property in particular environment variable. So if we wanted to deploy across a different account, we could give them an account number. Or if we wanted to deploy it to a different region, the property, we would give it a region ID. So this is a way that we can abstract and deploy the CDK across different accounts and across different regions by changing the stack here. If like this, I give it no properties, then it will by default deploy into my account, my current account, like that. So that's how you do stuff across regions. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. So that also with one note, you mentioned about the CDK Bootstrap. That means that for the respective accounts, regions that we want to do across deployment, cross
Yep,
accounts deployments, that we need to do the CDK Bootstrap first for from each those accounts. Am I?
that's right.
Uh,
Yep, absolutely right, Donny. Yep,
Awesome. So, this is really clear. So that means that it's really flexible that we can have our CDK stacks and then we can wrap around on different stages. That's really cool.
yep,
But I do have
yep.
another questions for you, Derek. So now we know that how to define stages with CDK pipelines. One question from me, and this is something that I do quite frequent. What if I want to test or add manual approval step? So in case that if all UAT on staging is already done, I then need to approve it manually. So we can move the latest version on staging to production environment. Is it possible
Yep.
to do it with the CDK pipelines on implementing manual approval?
Yeah, absolutely, Donny. So, like any real world pipeline, we need to, as you say, put different checks and balances between stages of our pipeline.
Yeah.
So, it may be a test, it may be a manual approval, and usually manual approvals are, if you say what we've got here, a user acceptance test. That's a whole team of people user acceptance testing an application, and they need to sign it off before it goes to production, or there need to be a full test suite run across the application and environment before it can go to production. So we can add those steps in. So if I, for example, reference my UAT variable, I can then add a post step. So post the stage running, I can go say a new manual approval step. So new manual approval step, and then give it some sort of description. Let's call this approved, I don't know, approved and release to broad. So I do that, and what that does is we'll add a manual approval. So the one thing that we haven't talked about is how to update a pipeline, and this is the coolest part of CDK pipelines. How you update a pipeline is not by doing a CDK deploy from the command line or anything like that. You simply check your changes. So the changes that I've added here, which is add manual approval and adding the production stage, I simply take it into source control, updated stages. I go, didn't save it. Yep. I go git push, push it up into my GitHub repo that the pipeline is monitoring. And then if I go back to my pipeline, which is called, if you remember, the stage, give it a refresh. you'll see that it's already picked up the source just now. It's executing the build stage. It will then execute the update pipeline stage and add the test and deployment. So that is what's going to happen over the next couple of minutes, and hopefully by the end of the show, we'll be able to see what that looks like. So yeah, that's what makes the CDK pipelines so cool, flexible. It's all controlled from the source repo that you are pushing to. Uh, Even
Awesome.
the pipeline itself. So it's a bit of inception where the pipeline builds the pipeline that makes the pipeline. So it's very cool.
Okay. Thank you, Derek. We have couple of questions on the chat. Um, but first thing first, let me give a shout out to Jones. Um, we are premium members of Secrets Manager Fan Club. So Jones, so Jones has a questions that's really relate to on how that we can store the credentials using Secret Managers and retrieve it within the CDK pipelines. So the question is, can we use Secret Managers to store credentials? Probably not only for prod environment, also for staging or other kind of environments.
Yeah, absolutely. So the brilliant thing and the fantastic thing about the CDK, so I showed you the code earlier, but the CDK you can also interact with all of the AWS services. So if you go CDK secrets manager, you can actually build secrets manager yourself within the CDK. So if you have an application that uses secrets manager itself, so in my case, I built the web. Very simple REST API, but if it was a more complex application that needed to grab secrets out of secrets manager, you can build that within the application itself using the CDK. It's very cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Derek. Another question from DCIP. Is
Nice.
code deploy somehow used with CDK? I believe we are assuming that it refers to CDK pipelines.
Yep. So code build and code deploy is what we're using here to under the covers. So this is using code build, and I believe code deploy will then do the other part. So this is the wrong pipeline. We're still updating pipeline. Yeah, I believe code uh, cloud formation, cloud formation. So cloud formation is under the covers and deploy. But code build is definitely used, as you can see inside the
Yep.
pipeline itself. That provisions, it provisions.
Cool. Last questions. Last question. So we have a question from Kosaki. This relates to the approval, manual approval that I asked you earlier, Derek. Can approval step have a specified set of users or IAM roles that should approve it?
Oh, that is a great question. Like any manual approval, you can set up IAM rules. So if again, I go back to the CDK. Um, so again, I use what I need this CDK Pipelines manual approval because there's a whole object in the docs around manual approval action. And inside there, you can specify properties, etc., etc. And one of the properties there, so this is a stage, gives the action ID. Um, Yeah, I'm just checking to see if you can use a particular I am because I don't know. I never tried it, so I would go to the documentation and see if that's part of the manual approval step. And I'm trying to find it now for you. Um, CDK, give me 30 seconds. We've got there it is. Fast manual approval action properties. So grant.
Yeah.
So this will give you the principles that you can do. So it looks like you can.
Yeah, so I just searched and also I found a really good documentation on CDK workshop. I'm going to post it on the
Yep.
chat. Um, there you go, everyone. Okay. Okay, so I think now we know how to use CDK pipelines to implement CI/CD. Is it already done yet? No,
It's still updating pipeline, Donny.
still updating.
And yep, so it's defined prod. So we have the pipeline is defined. So here's our test.
Mm,
We have a prepare, and then there's our manual approval. That's good timing. There it is. Release the prod. So
okay,
it's going to run through that. It's going to stop at the manual approval step, and before we can then deploy to production.
this
So
is
it's
amazing
updated
actually,
itself.
Derek. Yeah, because before CDK pipelines, right? What I used to do is that I have a separate configurations to build the pipeline, and also I have the CDK. I'm sorry, the applications that also provision with CDK. So now that we can just combine these two, we within one single CDK. This is really amazing.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
cool feature. Very
yeah.
cool.
So thank you, Koseki, for your questions. And yeah, just posting again for those who are looking for manual approval configurations, which I believe this is a
Yeah,
common use
nice.
cases. You can check
Yep,
this CDK workshop. Yeah.
very nice. Yeah,
Okay.
CDK Workshop is the place to start, in my opinion.
Mm,
It's very good, and it gives you all the different languages as well, so you can actually choose your own adventure and choose what language you want to do the workshop in, um, which is nice.
cool. Okay, so my key takeaway from this is that automation is one key to increase your development velocity, and hands-off deployment, like what you've shown, Derek, is one of the best practices for any development team to release your applications. And I
Yeah.
also like to share with all of you, if you want to get your hands-on with the code that Derek shown today, you can go to this Git repo. I think that we have the updated one. Am I right, Derek?
Yeah. Let me find it. Let me find it, Tony. So we've got the example that I use. So the hey, what's new pipeline with stages. Let me put that on a caption now. Is here. With I call it with stages. It's here.
Oops.
Show. There we go.
Here.
Show.
There you
Yeah,
go.
there we go. Yay. We have the
Decode
technology. So
CDK
it's
pipeline
there. If you
sample. Yeah,
Yeah. So if you go into my GitHub repo, Deco, look at the last two change repos because this demo I built it yesterday. You should be able to find all the CDK pipeline stuff.
cool, cool. Thank you for sharing, Derek. Thank you for building up this GitHub repo. I'm going to clone this during the weekend.
No, you're not. You're gonna take some time off, Donny.
Okay, so that's it for today, folks. And for you who are watching live or VOD, please share your feedback and comments down below. If you want us to cover a specific features, just let us know as well. You can reach out to either of us on our Twitter handles. I do have a link for that. This one, yeah, you can follow us on Twitter. You can reach out to us if you have any specific features, or if you have any just have any other questions. Um, Okay, so Derek, any last words before we close this session? Any
Um,
piece of
just
advice?
just one, just one, Donny. I'm just gonna say that my T-shirt worked. So yes. Um, So yeah, the piece of advice is if you're building a CDK application, you should be looking at CDK pipelines because of that ability to deploy cross account, cross region. Simple, really simple as you saw. So yeah, check it out.
Thank you. That's awesome. So thank you for everyone for watching. Have a great weekend and happy coding. Goodbye.
Yeah.